Greetings, everyone. This is Preacher Man Piper, Doc Hatfield, coming to you, telling you another story. Before I get started here, I just wanted to tell you I'm smoking a little old pipe right here. It's called an HIS. Now, if you want to know what that means, I have no idea. I have no idea. I've had it for years upon years. Anyway, and in it I'm smoking Peter Stokkebye's Dark Fired. One of my favorites. I just love this stuff. Well, many years ago, I was in Chicago for about 1 year. And one day I got a telephone call, and a man said, sir, said, you tune pianos? And I said, yes, I do. He said, how much? I said, well, if it's not very much out of tune, I said, $35. I said, very rarely do I have to do a double tuning, but if I do, it's $50. Well, I'd like for you to come out and tune my piano. I said, all right, if you give me an address, I'll be glad to come out. He said, no, that's all right. Said, we'll come get you. Said, you ever rode in a limousine? I said, well, no, not that I know of. He said, well, we'll come get you. I said, okie dokie. Well, they come and got me. Put me in his limousine. It wasn't as long as a lot of limousines are, but it was big enough to be called a limousine. It was a Lincoln. And when I got in there, I noticed that all the windows were blackened out. You couldn't see out the windows at all. And you couldn't see out the front because there was a window that was behind the driver, you know. And so the fellow was sitting in there with me. The lights was on. He said, would you like a drink? I said, no, sir, I don't drink. He said, all right. He said, I got a Coke. I said, well, I'll drink that Coke. So he gave me a Coke, and we sat there and didn't hardly say anything to each other. Drove for about 25 minutes, and then I noticed that they pulled into something, and so he said, when it come to a stop, he said, now when you get out, just go straight in. I said, okay. So I got my bag, and I got out of the vehicle and walked right up some steps and walked in this big, humongous house. And the fella took me to a room that was probably about 30 feet long and probably 20 feet or more wide, big room. The only thing that was in it was a 9-foot Steinway Grand and the bench. And he said, that's the piano we need tuned. I said, all right. So I set my tools out and I began to tune that piano, and I worked on it for about an hour, and when I got done, I did a run up the piano and run down the piano, and that fellow that took me in there, he said, in just a minute, said, the man will be in. I said, all right. Well, in about 5 minutes, door opened at the end of the room, and a man walked in the room carrying a chair. Man walked in behind him. They come up there all within maybe 6 foot of the piano, And he set the chair down, and the man behind him come and sat down. And he said, could I hear the piano? And I said, yes. So I did a run up the piano and did a run down the piano. And he said, that's beautiful, that's beautiful. He said, can you play me anything? I said, yes, sir. I said, I mainly play gospel music, but I also play some classical. He said, well, play me a classical piece. So I sat down and played him a classical piece. I noticed him out of the corner of my eye just watching me. He didn't move. And then when I got done, he said, that's marvelous. He said, you say that you play gospel music. He said, is that hymn music? I said, yeah, that includes hymn music. He said, could you play a song for me called Amazing Grace? You know it? I said, oh, yeah, I know that. And so I said, I'll play it, and then I'll play you my arrangement of it. So I did. I played that for him, and when I got done, and he said, sir, he said, I thank you for taking the time to play for me. It's been a long time since someone's played that piano. And he said, that was really enjoyable. I said, well, I'm glad. I'm glad you liked it. And I said, I hope that the piano tuning is to your liking. He said, oh, it certainly is. He said, you got that little ring up there and them top notes up there that's hasn't been there for a long time. I said, well, that's called stretching the tuning. And I said, I tune every piano as if it was my own, and I was going to be the one playing it all the time. He said, well, I certainly do appreciate it. And he said, they'll be in just a minute to take you back home. I said, well, thank you very much. And he just got up, left the chair there, left, and went out that door. Well, a minute or two later, the fellow who brought me in there come and got me. He said, you ready? I said, yes, sir. So we get back in the car. We go all the way back. And when we get back to my house, he said, he handed me an envelope. He said, this is for you. I said, thank you very much. And so he said, you going to look at it? I said, no. I said, I don't need to look at it. And he kind of smiled. He said, thank you. And so I got out of the car, and that was pretty much it. That was the end of it. Well, probably a month went by, and one day, oh, by the way, I opened up the envelope, and it had $200 in it. And I said, ooh, I'd tune the piano every day if I could just get $200. One piano a day would do it for me. And so about a month went by, and whenever it did, I got a phone call. And this guy said, you remember me? He said, you come and tuned our piano. We come picked you up. I said, yes, sir. He said, my employer said that he would really consider it a favor if you would come and just play for him for a while. And I said, well, I can do that. And I said, you going to come get me? He said, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are. I said, okay. So they come and got me, took me back out there, and I played for probably an hour, maybe hour and a half. Just played one song after another song. And I played a few songs he called for, and then when it was over, he stood up, and I stood up, and he reached out and shook my hand, and he said, "Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much." And he turned and he walked out the door. Well, they come and got me, put me back in the car, took me back to the house, and he handed me another envelope. And I said, I wasn't doing that for money. He said, well, he wants to show you his appreciation. I said, well, thank you very much. Well, I went in the house and opened that envelope up, and it was $500. And I thought, well, hope he calls again. Well, it wasn't long after that I was in a restaurant. And I noticed at the other end of the restaurant that there was 4 men sitting there, and they were watching me. And I thought, what are you watching me for? I was with a couple other people, and I told them, I said, them guys over there just uh, trying to stare a hole through my head. I said, I wonder why. And he said, the guy with me said, I don't know. I said, well, I know I'm good looking, but hey, I don't think I'm that good looking. We kept on eating, and then out of the blue, 3 men walked in that restaurant and walked over to my table and stood in front of me, blocking those people from even seeing me because they were standing close together. 2 other men came in and went over to their table. And it wasn't but just a few minutes until those 2 men left and the 3 men in front of me left, except one of them turned around and said, you all right? I said, yes, sir, I'm just fine. Well, you have a good day. I said, thank you, sir. And he walked out, and I'm going, what's going on? But I looked, and I noticed there wasn't nobody at that table over there. Now, I don't know where they went, because I could see well enough if somebody went in and out, and they didn't go in and out, at least out the front door, you know. They went somewhere, and that was about the end of that. And so I left there. I left Chicago, and probably a year went by, and one day I got a letter in the mail, and I opened it, had a check in it for $1,000. And the letter said, Mr. Hatfield, anytime you need me, call this number. And it had a phone number. It don't make any difference what the problem is. Don't make any difference how much the trouble is. You call me and we'll take care of it for you. Well, I said, great, day in the morning. Well, after a while, I found out that who I had tuned a piano for was the head of the mob in Chicago. I didn't even know it. Had no idea. I mean, the man never acted like that. I mean, if you watch The Godfather, you see how they talk and all that stuff. Didn't act nothing like that. He just acted like a normal person. But then years went by, probably 20 years went by. And one day my phone rang. This man said, Mr. Hatfield, and he told me who he was. He was the son of this man. He said, I just wanted to inform you that my father passed away. I said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, can you tell me how he passed away? And he said, yes, sir, he had cancer. I said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, but I'm calling you to tell you that I promised my father that I would do what he promised you he would do. That number he gave you is my number now. If you ever need me, if you ever get trouble, you call. We'll handle it. Now to this day, I've never heard from him since. Never have. And that's probably been, oh, I don't know, probably 15 years ago. And doubt that I'll ever hear again. But anyway, that is my tuning for the mob. So I don't know what else to say about it. So I guess we'll end it here. And I hope and pray that everybody's doing okay. I hope and pray everybody's enjoying their pipes, enjoying their tobacco, enjoying their Zippo lighters. Now, all of you take care. Know that I'm praying for you. Pray that God will protect you, watch over you, supply you every need, take care of every circumstance in your life. And until next time, bye-bye.